I, Alla Blomqvist, affirm that this evidence is of my own authority. I have not appealed to plagiarism in any forms, and I have established that this is in preparation and developing on this activity. I have followed the guidelines of the Technological Monterey Code of Ethics. In a world where the environmental crisis is accelerating, corporations claim to be leading the way towards sustainability. But how real are these promises? In this documentary, we will analyze GBS Food's campaign Net Zero by 2040, a global promise to reach carbon neutrality and a controversial example of corporate greenwashing. The Net Zero by 2040 campaign was launched globally through press releases, digital videos, sustainable reports, and social media content in 2021. It promised to make companies' entire value chain carbon neutral within 2 decades. GBS presented itself as a corporate leader in environmental responsibility, aligning its message with global sustainability goals and climate action narratives. The company promised to reduce emissions, invest in renewable energy, support reforestation, and improve transparency in its cattle supply chains. Through Polish videos and optimistic slogan, GBS invited the public to join the journey for a greener future. Yet, the campaign has been widely criticized and even legally challenged for misleading the public regarding the company's actual environmental performance and lack of concrete plans to reach ambitious targets. Also being responsible for massive deforestation in the Amazon and some of the hugest greenhouse gases emission in the food industry. However, the proposed action were largely non-binding, vague, and lacking clear measurement mechanism. The company involved employees, suppliers, and customers in its narrative portraying climate neutralization as collectivism responsibility. The campaign was primarily directed to investors, policymakers, and environmental conscious consumers, seeking reassurance about the company's environmental impact. The term greenwashing refers to strategies that make companies appear more environmentally friendly than they truly is. In the case of GBS, critics argue that this promise is not backed by measurable actions. Despite these promises, GBS continues to be one of the world's largest emitters of greenhouse gases. Investigation by Greenpeace and Mighty Earth show that the company's supply chains remained linked to illegal deforestation in the Amazon. In 2024, the New York Attorney General filed a lawsuit against GBS, accusing the company of misleading the public with false climate actions. The lawsuit stated that GBS has no visible strategy to achieve net zero. This is a textbook example of greenwashing, when a communication creates the illusion of environmental progress while concealing contagious of harmful practice. When I look at GBA's own sustainability reports and climate documents, the situations become clearer. This company always says it will reach net zero by 2024 for all emissions, but only its direct operations are checked by outside auditors. The biggest part of its emissions come from cattle farming and deforestation, and is still mostly unmatched with and not received. Based on this, the campaign seems partly reliable when it comes to direct operations, but very uncertain overall. The lack of transparency, independent checks, and measurable progress suggests that the net zero by 2040 is more of a promise than a real plan. A Polish example of corporate greenwashing. A company has not shared a clear plan for how it will reach net zero and has admitted that over 90% of its emissions come from suppliers it can not fully control. The campaign's language is full of words like commitment, responsibility, and sustainability. This gives the impression of progress, but shows little proof of real change. This reflects of the idea of false action, where symbols, gestures take place of true system reform. GBS says it's aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, especially SDG 12, Responsible Production, SDG 13, Climate Action, and SDG 15, Life on Land. By continuing to expand cattle production in forestation regions, GBS undermines biodiversity and contributes to global warming. The campaign, thus, highlights a contribution between corporate branding and the holistic nature of SDGs, which require integrated and vertical actions. The media discourse of GBS reflects on a neoliberal ideology that frames climate responsibility as comparable with economic growth. The argument appeals to moral responsibility. We care for the planet. We're preserving the company's industrial model. Theoretically, the campaign uses emotional appeal and moral resonance rather than ethical proof. For example, images of green pastures and smiling farmers implies uh, environmental harmony. This creates a discouraged contrast between corporate self-preservation and critical voices exposing contractions. An underlying falsity includes an appeal to authority, wishful thinking, and a false dilemma. The power of discourse lies in its ability to transform environmental guilt into brand loyalty, turning climate actions into a marketing strategy. A proposed action, reaching net zero by 2040, seems more symbolic than real. GPS presents its goal as possible but does not explain any clear steps or short-term plans to make it happen. As a result, the campaign fails to deal with the main issue, the environmental harm caused by large-scale animal farming. Instead, it presents the problem as something that we can solve through innovation and efficiency, which makes attention away from reducing meat consumption or making deeper structural changes. On social media, the campaign was first met with positive reactions, but after 2024 lawsuit, public opinion changed quickly. Hashtags like GBS greenwashing and Meet the Truth became viral, but few real changes followed. The public emotional responses were real but short-lived. This shows how social media can spread awareness without necessarily creating real accountability. What would an honest and effective environmental campaign look like? First, transparency should replace storytelling. Instead of emotional marketing, GBS and other companies should share independently verified data, showing clear status points for emissions, measurable years progress, and external audits. A real campaign must also deal with the main causes of emission. This means reducing herd sizes when needed, investing in base plant and alternative proteins, and protecting forests by working with local and indigenous communities. To make a real change happen, everyone in the society must take part. Citizens making informed and conscious food choices, authorities enforcing law and hold companies accountable, companies must set boundaries and set measurable and science-based goals and stay transparent. Media report critically and show both progress and failure. A responsible environmental campaign should use ethos, logos, and pathos, but without manipulation. Through ethos, it builds trust and credibility, showing that a company values match its actions. Through logos, it presents scientific reasoning, verified data, and transparent evidence. Through pathos, it creates a real emotional connection, not through guilt or fear, but through hope and shared responsibility for the planet and its future. By combining campaigns like Net Zero by 2040 are powerful because they appeal to a hope for a sustainable future. Yet they often manipulate the hope, turning environmental responsibility into a marketing tool. Recognizing this manipulation is the first step toward demanding truth, transparency, and real action. Three things I didn't know before. 1. How corporations use languages and images to influence people's beliefs about the environment. 2. The legal and ethical consequences of greenwashing. 3. How online slacktivism can raise awareness without leading to actual change. 2 things I want to learn more about is how governments can regulate false sustainability claims and how consumers can demand accountability through collective actions. And one thing I will change is I will be more critical of corporate environmental messages, checking the evidence and looking beyond slogans before I believe or share them.